Support Name Explain on Patreon for ad-free videos, exclusive podcasts and blog posts, and to help choose what names get explained. Click the link in the description. Africa is a continent with a deep history of colonization. Across the entire continent, there are thought to be just one or two countries that have never been colonized in any capacity, those being Ethiopia and Liberia, though Liberia is debated as a bit of a unique case. While it wasn't ruled by foreign powers, it was formed by foreign powers. This is something I've talked about in a video unto itself. So many argue that's just one nation that has never been colonized, Ethiopia. That's just one of 54 countries on the entire continent. Of course, with colonization comes languages. There's nothing colonizers love doing more than rocking up to a new part of the world and spread their tongue. That sounded weirdly sexual, I didn't mean that to happen. Often to the point of eradicating languages being spoken there before, or at least marginalizing them to a great extent. So much of the geographical distribution of language is down to colonization. It's why English is spoken across the USA and Spanish in so much of South America. This is of course the case in Africa too. Many of the official languages used by various African nations aren't native to the land. Take Nigeria's official language of English, Afrikaans, which is an adaptation of Dutch spoken in South Africa, and of course all the Arabic speaking nations across the continent's north. So many foreign powers and their languages have laid claim to these lands. However, what's most amazing about all this is that despite how tightly some of these foreign languages have dug their claws into the land, many native languages have been fiercely resilient and not only survived but continue to thrive. While I mentioned South Africa's Afrikaans as an official language, the native languages of Zulu, Swazi and Koshka all have official status too. Yeah, I'm not trying to click, I'm afraid. Koshka, Oshka, Oshka. You get the idea. Africa's languages have been wonderfully resilient in the face of colonization, and this can be seen perfectly in the nation we'll be focusing on today. Togo. Togo is a nation on the southern shore of West Africa, nestled between Ghana and Benin. It's a relatively small nation too, at just over 55,000 kilometers square in size, and its population sits around the 8.6 million mark. What's most interesting for us today, however, is just how many foreign powers have laid claim to Togo. The land which makes up modern-day Togo has been influenced by no less than 4 foreign powers, each bringing their own language along with them. Yet, despite a quartet of foreign rulers, the native languages that originated from these lands are still widely spoken across it, though of course foreign languages are still present, some a tad more than others. The history of Togo and the languages that call this land their home are really interesting. However, before we look into that, we ought to explain this nation's name. This is Name Explain after all. I have to have some pretense of etymology, I suppose. Well, Togo is actually named after the village of Togodo, which from what I can gather now ironically lies within the borders of its neighbouring Benin. The meaning of this name has been translated to mean a variety of things, though all with a similar meaning. It has been translated as meaning city beyond the cliff, the place on the other side of the shore, and city beyond the river. So whatever its specific meaning is, the name clearly relates to how the settlement lay beyond some geographic feature. Togo is thought to have first started being settled all the way back in the 11th century. This would have been tribes from the surrounding areas of Africa calling this land their home. It was across the 15th and 17th century, however, when the first real noteworthy tribes started calling this land their home, that being the Awe people. The Awe are believed to have migrated from land in modern Nigeria to this part of Africa, and to this day, the Awe are the largest ethnic group in the nation of Togo. Their language shares the same name as them, being called Awe. This language is seen as being part of the larger Niger-Congo language family that includes so many of the languages from sub-Saharan Africa. The Awe people and other various African tribes remained in this land undisturbed until around the 18th century. It was in this century that Europe and the slave trade came to their shore. The slave trade led to whole villages of native Africans being uprooted and sent to the New World. Many natives, however, escaped from a life in slavery. Many in southern Togo escaped to the mountains in the north of the nation. They did this as being within the mountains made it more difficult for them to be captured and subsequently sold into slavery. century. These natives who lived in Togo's northern mountains became the Cabre people. Subsequently, they created their own language too, named Kobia. Like Awe, this language is too part of the larger Niger-Congo language family. However, Kabia is part of the Gur branch as opposed to Awe, which is part of the Kwi branch. Together, however, Awe and Kobia are two of the most well-known native languages in the nation of Togo and are still the most popular to this day. Though, as I mentioned, these languages have had to be highly resilient, as since they came to prominence around the 15th to 17th century, 4 foreign powers have laid claim in this land, and in turn have spread or attempted to spread their languages here too. The first of these foreign powers might be one you were not expecting, that being the Danes. I was rather surprised to hear this myself. While I knew the Danish Empire was sizable, I had no idea it reached into any part of Africa. However, the Danish only had slight influence over the land of Togo. The land they really had a hold on was the Togo's west, the Danish Gold Coast as it was called at the time. Now of course this is the nation of Ghana. The Gold Coast as it was called has been occupied by a huge variety of nations, from the British to the Portuguese to the Swedish. This is because the land was so rich in valuable natural resources like gold of course, but also oil and gas. This huge variety of foreign powers across the Gold Coast would have affected our Togo too. The land of Togo, however, would come under formal European rule in 1884, however. This was during the height of the infamous Scramble for Africa, a time period in which many foreign powers fully realised just how valuable the land of the continent could be for them, as suddenly they were all vying for a piece of the pie. As the name suggests, this was a bit of a scramble for the land. In this scramble, Togo came under German rule. It was claimed by German Chancellor Otto von Bismarck, and the other nations agreed with this. Under German rule, the country got the name of Togoland, which is of course pretty much the name we know it as today, but with land tacked onto the end of it. This German Togoland included the area which is modern day Togo, but also area that is now in eastern Ghana. Under German rule, Togo became a farming colony. Oil palms grew naturally in the land, and the Germans were able to grow foreign crops there too, like cotton and cocoa. It was also while the land was under German rule that roads and railways came to Togo too. Overall, it's easy to see the huge impact that Germany had on this land. German rule in the nation would however come to an end, and that was with the advent of the First World War. Early on during this war, France and Great Britain occupied this German land. This was of course because Germany and France/Britain were on opposite sides during this war, so any German land they could claim would lead to an advantage. Once under French and British occupation, Togo would never be German again. In 1922, the League of Nations issued that Britain should administer the western part of Togoland and France to rule the eastern part of Togoland. This means that both British and French influence fell onto the nation too, though between these two, French had a much stronger influence. As mentioned, that German Togoland included area in its west that is now part of modern day Ghana, and as Britain got to rule over the west of German Togoland, it meant the land they ruled over was never actually a part of modern Togo. Eventually, however, in 1956, the western British Togoland got merged into the Gold Coast territory, which was also under British rule at the time, eventually becoming the nation of Ghana. That leaves us with just the eastern part of the former German Togoland, now under French rule, fittingly becoming named French Togoland. This land stayed under French rule from 1922 all the way until 1960. It was in this year the land finally achieved independence, becoming the Togolese Republic, which is the full official name for Togo. This means that the Danish, Germans, British and French all had varying degrees of control over these lands. But what about their languages? Well, if you hadn't guessed by now, French has had the strongest influence on this country. French is the official language of the nation, as it is in many other countries in this part of the continent. This means that French is used for most official reasons and used in schools and in business. English seems to have a province in Togo too, though how much of a presence I found conflicting reports. Some sources say that English is hardly used at all, but others say English is taught in schools in the land and is used in financial situations, such as in banks. If you're watching from Togo, let me know what the situation is. I unfortunately can't just hop onto a plane and check for myself, annoyingly. As for German and Danish, well, they seem to have had very little impact on the land. Danish makes sense as they didn't actually have too much control in the region, but I was surprised to see German wasn't popular either here. It seems even while the land was under German rule, the German authorities struggled with getting the residents to speak their language. This is pretty different to, say, Namibia, which was once under German rule too. Here, German can still be heard and is a recognized language of the land. Though, what about those two native languages I mentioned at the top of this video, Awe and Kabia? Well, here's the great thing. Despite all these foreign powers claiming the country for themselves, they've persisted. As mentioned, people in German Togoland didn't want to learn German and carried on speaking Awe. From German rule to French rule, they stuck around, though of course French was and still is the official language. In 1975, the resilience of these languages was recognized, and they were made national languages. Today, Awe can be heard mainly in the nation's south, while Kabia is heard in the land's mountainous north. They're used for more informal occasions amongst friends and families. On top of these two native languages being given national status, Togo is full of even more native languages too. Togo is believed to be home to around 40 different languages. Some of these, however, we know very little about. These languages include the likes of Tem, Gen, Aya, Moba, Nitshum, Lama, Nwandum, Luf, Quatramanchima, Biali, Adangobi, Wudu, Mublim, and Kusal. Of course, I have no idea if I pronounce any of those right, but the very fact they're still on our planet makes me very happy. I just find it so awesome to know that despite how much influence foreign powers have had over these lands, these native languages didn't go extinct, as we've unfortunately seen in other parts of the world when it comes to foreign powers claiming their homelands. Africa really is home to some of the world's most resilient languages, and just looking to the small nation of Togo shows us prime examples of that resilience. Togo was suggested by Denny Zavada, and thanks to their suggestion, they will now be honoured as Name Explain's patron saint of Togo. Do you have a good idea for somewhere that's name could be covered in a Name Explain video? If so, then please consider donating on Patreon. Just $1 a month helps keep the channel running and earns you a weekly chance to suggest somewhere to be turned into a video, and you too could be a Name Explain Patreon saint. Thank you to all my patrons who support Name Explain on a monthly basis. Patreon is vital to Name Explain, and donating just $2 a month allows you to enjoy ad-free videos and bonus Patreon exclusive content. It also allows you to help choose what names get explained in upcoming videos, and gets your name here with all these awesome people. Thank you so much for all the support you guys give Name Explain. Thank you so much for reaching the end of the video. Check out another video and subscribe to stay in the loop on all things Name Explain. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram where I'm Name Explain YT, and also join the Facebook group Friends of Name Explain, both of which will be linked down below. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video, and once again, thank you all so much.